No survivors. No signals. No warning. One moment, the most feared alien fleet in known space surrounded Earth. The next moment, it was gone. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Gone, like it had never existed. The Galactic Council did not panic easily. It was an ancient body, older than many stars, made up of civilizations that had survived extinction, war, and collapse. Yet today, fear crept through the chamber like a living thing. Screens floated in the air, showing the same image again and again. Earth. Alone. Peaceful. Untouched. Supreme Archivist Kethra Vole, a tall being with silver-veined skin and eyes like dark glass, stood at the center platform. She had recorded the rise and fall of empires for over 6,000 years. Her voice had announced wars, treaties, and the end of entire species. But now, even she hesitated. The Draconian Dominion's 9th expansion fleet entered the Sol system 72 hours ago, she said. Their mission was planetary suppression. Total elimination of human civilization. A low murmur spread through the council chamber. Humans were barely spacefaring by galactic standards. Loud. Curious. Divided. Dangerous only to themselves, or so everyone believed. They were expected to succeed within one planetary rotation, Kethra continued. Instead, we lost all contact. A massive figure shifted in the Draconian delegation. Warmaster Korzath, clad in black ceremonial armor, rose slowly. His scales were scarred from centuries of conquest. His presence alone had ended negotiations before. Impossible, he growled. Our fleet carries weapons that crack moons. Our commanders do not fail. Humans cannot do this. Kethra did not argue. She simply gestured. The display changed. It showed the Sol system before the invasion. Red icons, Draconian warships, surrounded Earth in a perfect kill formation. Then the timestamp advanced. 40 minutes later, the red icons vanished. No explosion. No energy spike. No debris field. Nothing. The chamber fell silent. Perhaps, said Envoy Lyra 9, a floating crystalline intelligence from the Heliox Union, the humans were aided by another power. All known powers were accounted for, Kethra replied. No allied fleets. No cloaked vessels. No exotic energy use. Warmaster Korzath slammed his clawed hand into the platform. Then explain the silence. Kethra's eyes hardened. That is why we are here. She turned toward a smaller figure seated alone near the edge of the chamber. A human. Director Elias Monroe, Earth's first off-world representative, stood calmly. He wore no armor. No weapons. Just a simple dark suit. His hands were folded behind his back. You may speak, Kethra said. Every eye turned toward him. Monroe stepped forward, unafraid. Earth acknowledges the disappearance of the Draconian fleet, he said evenly. And we regret the confusion it has caused. Confusion. The word hit the chamber like an insult. Warmaster Korzath hissed. You regret the loss of 1,200 warships. Monroe met his gaze. No. I regret that you sent them. A ripple of outrage spread through the delegates. You admit responsibility. Korzath demanded. Monroe shook his head. Responsibility implies intent. What happened was a consequence. Kethra raised a hand, silencing the chamber. Explain. Monroe inhaled slowly. For decades, humanity watched the stars, he said. We listened. We mapped patterns. We learned something important about the universe. He paused. It doesn't reward brute force. Several delegates exchanged uneasy glances. When your fleet entered our system, Monroe continued, we did not fire a single weapon. We did not raise shields. We did not scramble defenses. Warmaster Korzath laughed, a harsh sound. Then you surrendered. No, Monroe said softly. We calculated. The displays shifted again. This time, they showed human satellites, civilian platforms, communication relays. Nothing military. Our scientists discovered a flaw in faster-than-light travel, Monroe said. A resonance instability. Rare. Subtle. Invisible unless you know where to look. Kethra leaned forward. You weaponized space-time. Monroe nodded. We didn't destroy the fleet. We disconnected it. The chamber erupted. Disconnected. Lyra 9 asked. From reality, Monroe said. Silence returned, thick and heavy. When the fleet activated synchronized FTL containment fields around Earth, he explained, they unknowingly locked themselves into a closed resonance loop. We simply nudged it. Korzatha's voice dropped to a whisper. Where are they? Monroe's expression did not change. Nowhere, he said. And everywhere. Frozen between moments. No suffering. No death. Just removed. You erased them, Korzath snarled. No, Monroe corrected. We protected ourselves. Kethra exhaled slowly. Why did you not warn us? Monroe looked around the chamber. Because no one asked, he said. And because every time humans are threatened, we are told we are weak. He straightened. We are not weak. We are patient. The council remained silent. Outside the chamber, Earth continued to spin peacefully beneath its satellites. Children slept. Cities glowed. Humanity went on with its day, unaware that an entire empire had just learned a terrible truth. Earth did not need survivors. Earth did not send signals. Earth had already answered. The Galactic Council chamber did not explode into chaos. That was what unsettled everyone most. No shouting. No threats. No sudden declarations of war. Just silence, heavy, thoughtful, afraid. The kind of silence that followed a truth too large to ignore. Supreme Archivist Kethra Vole broke it at last. Her voice was calm, but there was tension beneath it. You are telling us, she said slowly, that humanity possesses the ability to remove a fleet from existence without destruction, without energy discharge, and without detection. Director Elias Monroe nodded once. Yes. Warmaster Korzath stared at him with burning eyes. And you expect us to believe this was done with civilian infrastructure? Monroe turned slightly, gesturing toward the display of satellites. Most of those were communication arrays. A few weather monitors. One deep space observatory we forgot to decommission. Korzath snarled. Lies. Kethra raised a hand again. Enough. Truth does not fear scrutiny. She turned back to Monroe. Why has no other civilization discovered this instability? Monroe folded his hands. Because most civilizations rush forward. Humans argue first. A few delegates shifted uncomfortably. Our scientists spent decades disagreeing with each other, Monroe continued. About physics. About ethics. About whether we should even keep searching. That delay gave us time to notice things others overlook. Lyra 9's crystalline body pulsed softly. If this knowledge spreads, the balance of the galaxy will collapse. Monroe met the Ari's gaze. That balance was built on fear. The council recessed shortly after. Not out of dismissal, but necessity. Ancient minds needed time to think. Monroe was escorted from the chamber by quiet attendants. No guards. No restraints. The aliens did not yet know whether he was a threat, or something far worse. He was brought to a private observation chamber overlooking a star field. Waiting inside were 3 figures. Dr. Hannah Okoye, lead human physicist, stood near the window, arms crossed. Her eyes were tired but sharp. Admiral Thomas Reyes, Earth Defense Council, leaned against a table, jaw tight. And hovering slightly above the floor was Observer Threx, a joint species analyst assigned by the Council to monitor humanity. You revealed more than planned, Reyes said. Monroe exhaled. They were never going to accept half-truths. Hannah turned. You told them the fleet was frozen. That's not entirely accurate. Monroe looked at her. Close enough. Threx's voice hummed with layered tones. For the record, where is the fleet? Hannah hesitated. Reyes answered instead. Still moving. Threx flickered. Explain. The resonance didn't stop them, Hannah said. It stretched them. Every second for us is decades for them. They're trapped in an infinite slowdown. Conscious. Alive. Threx recoiled slightly. That is worse than death. Hannah's voice was quiet. We know. Monroe stared out at the stars. Which is why we never used it before. Until now, Reyes said. Monroe nodded. Until survival demanded it. Far from the council chamber, deep within the Draconian Dominion, panic had begun to spread. Warmaster Korzath stood before the high war circle. Massive holoscreens surrounded him, each displaying the same empty starfield where the Ninth Fleet should have been. They claim the fleet still exists, one warlord hissed. Trapped. A trick, another spat. Psychological warfare. Korzath remained silent. He had fought humans before. Not in battle, but in negotiation. They smiled too easily. Spoke too plainly. That was what worried him. They did not boast, he finally said. They warned. A younger commander snapped. We should strike again. Harder. And lose another fleet. Korzath roared. To a weapon we cannot see. The chamber fell quiet. Prepare an intelligence probe, he ordered. Small. Silent. No formations. No aggression. Elsewhere, on Earth, the public knew nothing. Morning traffic flowed through cities. Children went to school. Scientists drank coffee while arguing about equations on whiteboards. Only a handful of humans understood how close extinction had come. In a secure underground facility, Hannah Okoye stood before a massive simulation chamber. Data flowed around her like rain. Stability holding, a technician said. For now, Hannah replied. She glanced at the model of space-time folding gently around a star system. Beautiful. Terrifying. We can't do this again, she whispered. Back in orbit, Observer Threx met privately with Kethra Vole. They are not conquerors, Threx said. But they are dangerous. Kethra nodded. Because they do not seek power. Yes, Threx agreed. They seek control of consequences. Kethra gazed at Earth on the distant display. The galaxy has underestimated them. Will you recommend sanctions? Threx asked. No, Kethra said slowly. I will recommend caution. And the Draconians. Kethra's eyes darkened. They will not accept this quietly. As if summoned by thought, an alert flashed across the chamber. Unidentified probe detected, an aide announced. Draconian design. Minimal mass. Stealth profile. Kethra closed her eyes for a brief moment. So it begins, she murmured. On Earth, alarms did not sound. Instead, a single message appeared on a secure human network. Incoming observer detected. Protocol. Transparency. Monroe read it and smiled faintly. They're testing us, Reyes said. Monroe nodded. Good. Hannah looked up sharply. Good. Yes, Monroe said. Because this time, we don't need to hide. Above Earth, the small Draconian probe slipped into orbit, scanning silently. For the first time in galactic history, an empire was watching a young species, not to judge its weakness, but to measure its restraint. And humanity, standing at the edge of unimaginable power, faced a question no weapon could answer. Not can we stop them? But should we? The Draconian probe drifted above Earth like a silent thought. It was smaller than a transport shuttle, shaped like a shard of black glass, wrapped in layers of stealth fields that bent light and distorted sensors. By Draconian standards, it was perfect. No emissions. No weapons. Only eyes. It expected nothing. That was its first mistake. Inside Earth's deep space monitoring facility, a soft chime sounded. Dr. Hannah Okoye looked up from her console. We've got a ghost, one of the analysts said. Low mass anomaly. Orbiting just beyond geosynchronous range. Draconian. Admiral Thomas Reyes asked. Hannah nodded. Clean design. Smart. Careful. Monroe stood behind them, hands clasped, watching the data streams flow like rivers of light. They're afraid, he said. Reyes snorted. Good. No, Hannah replied quietly. Dangerous. The probe began its work. It scanned human satellites first. Weather systems. Communication relays. Navigation networks. It searched for weapons, power spikes, hidden platforms. There were none. Then it looked deeper. At power grids. At data traffic. At the sheer volume of information moving across the planet every second. The probe's internal processors slowed, not from damage, but overload. Humanity generated more raw data in a single hour than some civilizations produced in a century. Patterns emerged. Not chaos. Not order. Adaptation. In the Galactic Council's remote observation chamber, Kethra Vole watched the probe's feed in real time. Observer Threx hovered beside her, silent. They are exposed, Threx said. No planetary shields. No visible defense lattice. Kethra did not answer immediately. The probe shifted focus. It found underground facilities. Not military bases, research centers. Deep labs buried under mountains and oceans. Some were powered down. Others were sealed completely. The probe attempted intrusion. It was politely refused. Not blocked. Not attacked. Refused. A simple digital wall appeared, human-made, inelegant, inefficient by galactic standards. But it learned. It adapted faster than the probe. The probe tried again. And again. Each time, the system changed. Inside the lab, Hannah frowned. It's mapping our responses. Reyes crossed his arms. Let it. Careful, Hannah said. This thing isn't stupid. Monroe nodded. Which means it will notice what we're not showing. As if on cue, the probe detected something else. A faint echo. Not energy. Not matter. A mathematical absence. The resonance field. It could not see it directly, but it could see the way space-time curved gently away from Earth, like water flowing around a stone. The probe froze. Its internal logic re-evaluated everything it knew about physics. Far away, within the Draconian war circle, alarms sounded. Warmaster Korzath stared at the data flooding in from the probe. His claws dug into the stone floor. They built a cage, one warlord whispered. No, Korzath said slowly. They built a door. The probe sent one final packet of data. Then it powered down voluntarily. Back on Earth, Hannah leaned back in her chair, exhausted. It stopped. Reyes blinked. Stopped. Dormant, she said. Like it decided it had seen enough. Monroe closed his eyes briefly. Or like it understood. In the council chamber, silence returned. Kethra dismissed the feeds and turned to Threx. Your assessment. Threx's glow dimmed slightly. Humanity possesses weapons capable of reshaping reality. Yes, Kethra agreed. But, Threx continued, they did not threaten. They did not demonstrate. They allowed observation. Kethra's voice was soft. They chose restraint. That word echoed through the chamber. Restraint was rare among the stars. On Earth, the decision was not unanimous. In a secure meeting room beneath Geneva, voices rose. They will come back, one counselor argued. Stronger. Smarter. We should finish it, another said. End the threat permanently. Hannah stood abruptly. No. All eyes turned to her. That field, she said, voice shaking with controlled emotion, was never meant to be used on living minds. We crossed a line already. They tried to wipe us out, a general snapped. And we survived, Hannah shot back. That matters. Monroe raised a hand. We did not build that system to rule the galaxy. Then why build it at all? Someone demanded. Monroe answered honestly. Because humans are curious. And because the universe doesn't forgive ignorance. Silence followed. Finally, Reyes spoke. If we push further, we become what they fear. And if we don't? A counselor asked. Reyes looked at the floor. Then we gamble everything on trust. Above Earth, the Draconian probe drifted silently, its mission complete. Within its core, a simple conclusion repeated. Humans could have erased US. They chose not to. War Master Korzath received the final report alone. He dismissed his advisors and stared into the dark. For the first time in centuries, the Draconian Dominion did not know how to respond. Fear was easy. War was familiar. But restraint? That was something new. And it terrified him. On Earth, the stars shone quietly. Humanity stood at a crossroads not marked by fire or conquest, but by choice. They had shown the galaxy their strength. Now, they would show it their wisdom. And somewhere between frozen fleets and silent probes, the universe began to understand something profound. Humans were not dangerous because of what they did. They were dangerous because of what they refused to do. Fear does not always scream. Sometimes, it whispers. Within the Draconian Dominion, fear whispered through war halls, command ships, and ancient bloodlines. The probe's report had spread faster than any official decree. Warriors who had never doubted victory now spoke in low voices. Commanders hesitated before giving orders. For the first time in Draconian history, power felt uncertain. War Master Korzath felt it most of all. He stood alone in the Hall of Scales, staring at the great mural carved into the stone wall. It depicted the first conquest, the moment the Draconians had learned a simple truth: dominate or be destroyed. That belief had shaped their empire for thousands of years. And now, humans had shattered it without firing a shot. They could have ended us, Korzath murmured. A figure stepped forward from the shadows. Strategist Vethraral, younger, sharper, and far more dangerous in his ambition. That is exactly why they must be destroyed, Vethraral said. Korzath turned slowly. Careful. Restraint is a lie, Vethraral continued. They pretend to be peaceful while holding the power to erase fleets. Today it was us. Tomorrow it will be the entire Dominion. They did not threaten us, Korzath replied. They didn't need to, Vethraral snapped. Their silence was the threat. Across the stars, on Earth, that same silence was cracking. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility known only as Atlas Node, warning lights flickered. Resonance drift detected, an engineer said, voice tight. It's small, but it's growing. Dr. Hannah Okoye rushed to the console. Data scrolled faster than she could read. That's impossible, she whispered. The field is stable. It was, another technician said. Something changed. Admiral Reyes appeared on the screen. Report. Hannah swallowed. The resonance field is reacting to external observation. The probe. It didn't just watch, it learned. Reyes went still. Are we in danger? Not yet, Hannah said. But if the field destabilizes. She didn't finish the sentence. They all knew. Across the planet, faint anomalies appeared. Clocks drifted out of sync. Satellites reported impossible readings. Astronomers noticed stars wobble in ways that defied prediction. The universe was stretching. Monroe stood beside Hannah, face pale. We pushed too far. No, Hannah said softly. We were pushed. In the Galactic Council, alarms echoed for the first time in millennia. Space-time fluctuation detected, an aide announced. Origin, Sol System. Kethra Vol felt a cold weight settle in her core. They are losing control. Observer Threx pulsed anxiously. Or discovering the cost. Back in the Draconian Dominion, Vethraral smiled as the reports came in. See, he said. Their power is unstable. This is our moment. Korzath turned on him, fury blazing. You leaked the probe's deeper scan data. I ensured survival, Vethraral replied calmly. By forcing a response. You forced a reaction that could tear reality itself, Korzath growled. Vethraral spread his claws. Then they will destroy themselves. On Earth, the resonance field spiked. Hannah stared at the projections in horror. If this cascades, it won't just affect the frozen fleet. It could spread system-wide. Reyes clenched his fists. Can you shut it down? Yes, Hannah said. But what? Monroe asked. But the Draconian fleet will return to normal time, she said. Instantly. Silence fell. Reyes spoke first. 3 million soldiers. And 1,200 warships, Hannah added. Monroe closed his eyes. If the field collapsed completely, Earth might survive, but the galaxy would not. Do it, Monroe said at last. Reyes looked at him sharply. That could mean war. Monroe met his gaze. It could mean trust. Hannah's hands trembled as she entered the final command sequence. Once I start this, there's no stopping it. Start, Monroe said. Across the galaxy, something shifted. The frozen Draconian fleet lurched back into time. To the soldiers aboard, no time had passed. One moment, they were preparing to fire. The next, their systems screamed warnings. Confusion erupted across their ships. War Master Korzath felt it instantly. They released us. Vethraral's eyes widened. Why would they? Because, Korzath said slowly, they choose risk over cruelty. On Earth, planetary defenses remained silent. No shields rose. No weapons powered up. Instead, a single broadcast went out on every frequency. This is Earth, Monroe's voice said, calm and steady. We are standing down. The Draconian fleet hovered in orbit, weapons charged, commanders shouting for orders. They waited. Nothing happened. No attack. No trap. Just Earth. Alive. Open. Vethraral screamed across the command channel. Fire. End them now. But War Master Korzath raised his claw. Hold, he ordered. The younger commanders hesitated. Korzath stared at the blue planet below, at a species that had held the power of annihilation, and let it go. In that moment, the Draconian Empire faced a truth more terrifying than any weapon. Humans were not afraid of losing. They were afraid of becoming monsters. And that restraint, that impossible choice, changed everything. The Draconian fleet hung above Earth like a held breath. 1,200 warships, weapons charged, shields humming, every targeting system locked on a planet that refused to raise its fists. From orbit, Earth looked fragile. Blue oceans. Thin clouds. No armored shell. No glowing defense grid. Just life. War Master Korzath stood on the command deck of his flagship, staring down at the world his empire had tried to erase. They are not afraid, a sensor officer said quietly. Korzath already knew. On Earth, the tension was just as sharp. In the underground command center, alarms were silent, but everyone stood ready. Not with weapons. With decisions. If they fire, we can't stop it conventionally, Admiral Reyes said. Even now. Hannah Okoye nodded. The resonance system is offline. No second chances. Monroe watched the orbital feeds. He could see the massive shadows of Draconian ships crossing continents. Then this ends one of two ways. Hope is not a strategy, a general muttered. No, Monroe said. But courage is. Above Earth, a single Draconian ship broke formation. It moved slowly, deliberately, drifting forward without weapons active. Gasps echoed across command decks on both sides. That's the War Master's vessel, Hannah said. He's coming alone. Korzatha's ship descended into low orbit. He opened a channel. This is War Master Korzath of the Draconian Dominion, he said. I request direct communication with Earth's representative. Monroe stepped forward. You have it. The two figures appeared side by side on the shared channel. One massive, scarred, ancient. The other human, unarmed, calm. You released my fleet, Korzath said. You could have let them remain trapped forever. Yes, Monroe replied. Why? Monroe did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice carried weight. Because power without restraint is fear. And fear poisons everything it touches. Korzatha's eyes narrowed. You expect mercy to save you? No, Monroe said. I expect choice to define us. Behind Korzatha, strategist Vethraal watched the exchange with growing rage. They are manipulating you, Vethraal hissed over private channel. End this. Fire. Korzatha silenced him. You stand exposed, the War Master said to Monroe. No shields. No weapons raised. Why? Because if we raise them now, Monroe said, everything we proved becomes a lie. The Draconian bridge crew shifted uneasily. They had never seen an enemy refuse to prepare for battle. What happens, Korzatha asked, if I give the order? Monroe met his gaze. Then you win today. And lose the future. Silence stretched. Korzatha remembered the frozen time. The awareness without motion. The endless waiting. He remembered the probe's final report. They could have erased us. They chose not to. You do not seek conquest, Korzatha said slowly. No, Monroe replied. We seek coexistence. Even when it's terrifying. Vethraal snapped. This is weakness. Korzatha turned toward him, voice like thunder. No. This is strength we do not understand. Vethraal drew his sidearm. The movement was fast. Too fast. But not unexpected. Draconian guards reacted instantly. Weapons aimed. Stand down, Korzatha ordered. Vethraal laughed sharply. You would let them live. After humiliating us. They did not humiliate us, Korzatha said. They educated us. Vethraal raised his weapon toward the display, toward Earth. Before he could fire, Korzatha struck. One blow. Precise. Final. Vethraal fell. The bridge was silent. Korzatha turned back to Monroe. His voice was heavy with something new. Your restraint cost me a loyal strategist. Monroe nodded. Ours nearly cost us our world. The War Master straightened. The Draconian Dominion will withdraw. On Earth, people exhaled for the first time in hours. We will not return with fleets, Korzatha continued. We will return with diplomats. Or not at all. Monroe allowed himself a small smile. That's a beginning. The Draconian ship pulled back. Slowly, one by one, the warships disengaged. Weapons powered down. Formation dissolved. The sky over Earth cleared. In the Galactic Council chamber, shock rippled through the delegates as reports flooded in. They're leaving, Threx said in disbelief. Kethra Vol closed her eyes. The galaxy has changed. On Earth, celebrations did not erupt. Instead, there was quiet. Hannah sat alone in the lab, staring at the dormant resonance equations. We walked away from guardhood, she whispered. Reyes stood beside her. That's what made it human. Monroe addressed a secure global council later that day. We were tested, he said. Not by war, but by what we would do when we held absolute power. He paused. We passed because we remembered who we are. Far above, the Draconian fleet vanished into hyperspace. No explosions. No victory parades. Just a shared understanding written into the fabric of history. Power was never about what you could destroy. It was about what you chose to protect. And the galaxy would never forget the day humanity proved it. The galaxy did not explode into war. It fractured in quieter, deeper ways. Across hundreds of star systems, recordings of the Earth encounter spread through secure channels, leaked archives, and whispered transmissions. Not the battle that never happened, but the choice that did. Civilizations that had lived under the shadow of conquest began to ask dangerous questions. If the Draconians could be stopped, who else could? In the halls of the Galactic Council, Supreme Archivist Kethra Vol stood before a chamber filled to capacity. Never in recorded history had so many delegates demanded to speak at once. "This session is now in order," she announced. The noise did not fade immediately. They defied the Dominion and lived. They had the power to erase fleets. They chose mercy. Kethra raised her hand. Silence followed, slowly, reluctantly. "The matter before us," she said, "is not Earth's weapon. It is Earth's example." Observer Threx floated beside her, glow unstable. "We are detecting shifts in alliance patterns across 32 regions. Protectorates are refusing tribute. Border worlds are requesting council protection." Kethra nodded grimly. "Because fear has cracked." On Earth, the aftershocks felt different. There were no parades, no monuments, no triumphant speeches broadcast to the public. Most humans still believed the crisis had been averted through diplomacy alone. That was intentional. "We don't need to scare our own people," Hannah Okoye said during a closed meeting. "They deserve peace." Admiral Reyes leaned forward. "The galaxy won't stay calm forever." "No," Monroe agreed. "But neither will we." Human research stations quietly shut down projects that had crossed ethical lines. The resonance system was dismantled, its data locked behind safeguards that required global consensus to access. Humanity chose limits. That decision echoed louder than any superweapon. In the Draconian Dominion, the echo was painful. Warmaster Korzath stood before the High War Circle, scars fresh from more than battle. Political scars cut deeper. "You withdrew," one elder accused. "You killed one of our brightest strategists." Korzath did not flinch. "I prevented extinction." "They weakened us." "No," Korzath said. "They showed us what strength looks like when it does not need to prove itself." Murmurs spread. Some angry, some thoughtful. "Our empire was built on fear," Korzath continued. "Fear works, until it doesn't." Silence followed. In distant systems, smaller species began sending messages to Earth. Not please. Questions. "Can we talk? Can you help? Can we learn?" Earth did not answer all of them. But it listened. At the Galactic Council, a proposal was introduced, quietly at first. A new designation. Not a military rank. Not a governing authority. A stabilizing presence. Observer Threx delivered the findings. Species designation. Humanity. Status recommendation. Strategic neutral anchor. The chamber stirred. "They are not enforcers," Threx explained. "They do not impose order. But their existence alone alters behavior." Kethra spoke softly. "Because everyone now knows they could act, and choose not to." Far from council politics, something darker stirred. Beyond mapped space, where sensors failed and records ended, a signal pulsed. It was old. Older than the council. Older than the Draconians. It noticed the resonance event. Not the weapon. The choice. Within a region of collapsing stars, an ancient intelligence awakened. Anomaly detected. Species. Human. Behavior. Non-optimal. Interest. Extreme. On Earth, Hannah stared at a new data spike. "This isn't Draconian," she whispered. Reyes frowned. "Then what is it?" Hannah's voice was tight. "Something that's been watching the galaxy longer than anyone remembers." Monroe joined them, eyes steady. "Then it's time we learn who else has been afraid." Above Earth, the stars looked the same. But the universe had noticed humanity. Not because they fought. Not because they conquered. But because when given the power to dominate, they chose something far more dangerous. They chose responsibility. And somewhere in the dark, something ancient began to test whether that choice would hold. The signal did not arrive like an invasion. There were no fleets. No weapons charging. No hostile formations crossing space. It arrived as a question. Across every human deep space sensor, every observatory, every listening array, the same pattern appeared, perfect, undeniable, impossible to trace. A presence. Not in orbit. Not in hyperspace. Everywhere at once. Dr. Hannah Okoye stared at the data in silence. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from understanding. "It's not speaking," she said softly. "It's waiting." Admiral Reyes exhaled slowly. "Waiting for what?" Hannah swallowed. "For us to decide who we are." In the Galactic Council chamber, chaos threatened to break centuries of control. Delegates shouted. Species that had never known fear now felt it claw at their thoughts. Observer threats flickered violently. This intelligence predates all known civilizations. It is not hostile. It is evaluative. Supreme Archivist Kethra Vole closed her eyes. "A judge." "No," Threx corrected. "A survivor." Across the stars, the ancient intelligence observed humanity the way a dying forest watches fire, aware that destruction and renewal often wear the same face. It had seen empires rise, discover power, and collapse beneath its weight. It had erased gods before. On Earth, emergency councils convened, not in panic, but in humility. "We cannot fight this," one general said. "We shouldn't try," Monroe replied. All eyes turned to him. "It's watching because we surprised it," Monroe continued. "Not with strength. With restraint." Hannah nodded. It detected the resonance field, but what caught its attention was that we dismantled it. Reyes frowned. "You're saying it's testing whether we'll rebuild it?" "Yes," Hannah said. "Or something worse." Silence filled the room. Then Monroe spoke the words no one expected. "Open a channel." Reyes stared at him. "To that." "To whoever's listening," Monroe said. "We don't hide. We don't threaten. We don't impress." "What do we do then?" someone asked. Monroe looked around the room at scientists, soldiers, leaders, humans who carried the weight of survival. "We tell the truth." The transmission went out unencrypted. No weapons data. No defenses. No demands. Just a voice. "This is Earth," Monroe said, calm and clear. "We know you're there." The stars did not respond. He continued anyway. "We discovered power we were not ready for. We used it once, to survive. Then we chose not to use it again." A pause. "We don't know what you are. But if you're watching to decide whether we deserve to exist, then judge us for this." Across the galaxy, systems flickered. The ancient intelligence responded, not with words, but with experience. Every human receiver was flooded with visions. Civilizations burning. Species crowned as gods, then erased. Weapons that reshaped reality, used until nothing remained. Human minds reeled. And then, something different. Earth. A small blue world. Choosing not to finish an enemy. Choosing limits. Choosing responsibility over dominance. The intelligence focused. "You possess power. You reject ascension." "Why?" Monroe answered aloud, even though he didn't know if it could hear him. "Because being human matters more than being unstoppable." For the first time in millions of years, the ancient intelligence hesitated. Across the Draconian Dominion, War Master Korzath felt the shift. He knelt, not in submission, but in recognition. "They are not conquerors," he whispered. "They are anchors." The intelligence withdrew slightly, not retreating, but reassessing. Power without restraint destroys. Restraint without power fails. You balance both. On Earth, Hannah collapsed into a chair, tears in her eyes. "It's accepting us." The final message spread across every star system. Humanity will not be erased. Humanity will not rule. Humanity will remain. And then the presence faded. The stars returned to silence. Not the silence of fear. The silence of acknowledgement. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed in ways no one could undo. Empires slowed their expansions. Wars paused mid-sentence. Civilizations began talking instead of conquering. Not because Earth demanded it. Because Earth proved something radical. That the most dangerous species was not the one with the greatest weapons, but the one that knew when not to use them. On Earth, life went on. Children played. Scientists argued. Humans dreamed. They did not call themselves saviors. They did not call themselves chosen. They called themselves human. And far beyond the edge of known space, ancient things watched carefully, no longer searching for gods to erase, but for a species brave enough to stay mortal.